Hi and welcome to Krav Maga self-defense training. My name is Marcus Kowal. We're here at Systems Training Center in Hawthorne. We're going to go over some basic Krav Maga training today, some self-defense moves, and then later on, as we progress with this, we're going to be going over more moves in the future. While we're doing this, I wanted to let you know that you can ask questions. We will get to the questions, as many questions as we can, and the ones that seem the most relevant for the topic that we're covering for the day. Since today is our first day, what we're going to do is just go over some basic Krav Maga again. Krav Maga, for you that don't know, is the official self-defense training for law enforcement in the United States, as well as the preferred system for the military. Comes originally from Israel, that is taught to the IDF, still the official self-defense training for the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. Today I got Brian with me, and Brian is going to play the role as an attacker. He's also an amateur fighter here at Systems Training Center, and I'm originally from Sweden, based in Los Angeles, where we have 3 gyms, System Training Center gyms. So I see that we have some questions. I'm going to try to be able to read them and answer the questions at the same time as we're going through this. Hi Brad, how are you? Alright, so if you have questions, we're going to go over those in a bit. I'm going to show you a couple of moves. So just one of the most common questions I get. I'm a professional MMA fighter, professional kickboxer, and a lot of times people ask, why do I do both MMA, kickboxing, boxing, as well as Krav Maga? I'm a 2nd degree black belt in Krav Maga, and the answer to the question is because they're different. Even though a lot of the techniques and strikes and so on are the same, obviously, Krav Maga is a self-defense method. It's not so much of a martial art per se, or a traditional martial art. And as brutal as kickboxing, Muay Thai and MMA can be, it's still a sport where you have rules, you have a time limit, you have a weight limit, you know who you're fighting, and you know what time you're fighting, and the fight starts when the referee says fight. When it comes to self-defense, when it comes to Krav Maga, you are basically preparing for the fight that you don't want to happen, and a lot of times those fights happen when you least expect it. So again, the combatives, the striking methods of Krav Maga is based on kickboxing, boxing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, and then obviously you have more situations that you don't get in the traditional martial art world, such as someone has a knife, someone has a gun, multiple attackers, third-party protection, self-defense situations with you know, hostage taking and guns and so on. All right. Question from Robert. Oh, no question. You're sharing the video. Thank you for that. Again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. The first thing that we're going to do is just go over a basic kick. And the reason why, we're going to go over a choke series today. Chokes from the front, choke from the side, choke from behind. The reason why I'm going to teach the kick first is because there's 2 sides to Krav Maga. One, you got the combatives, the punches, kicks, knees, elbows, headbutts, all of that. And second of all is the self-defense side. When you're not expecting the attack, what if someone chokes you? What if someone comes up and applies a choke when you least expect it? And that's the self-defense side. So in my personal opinion, when it comes to any type of self-defense, where they don't teach you to strike back, unfortunately, it's not going to work. One of the most important things when it comes to self-defense is the mindset. You don't need to necessarily be a fighter, but you need to be able to strike back and want to strike back. Because if you don't change the mentality of the situation. You have to go from being the victim to the attacker. All right, so, saludos desde Ecuador. ¿Cómo estás, Jaime? Okay, all right, so what we're going to start with first is just teaching you a kick to the groin. Brian here is going to hold the tombstone pad that we're using, and a kick to the groin. The reason why we teach that in Krav Maga is known as almost like the Krav Maga handshake. A kick to the groin is very effective because, one, it doesn't matter if you're flexible, you don't need to have stretched for years and built up the strength in your leg to be able to lift it high. In fact, you don't even need good precision, because if you hit the kick on the inside of the leg, all roads lead to Rome, and it will still make contact with the area that you want it to hit. And if you watch mixed martial arts, for example, a fighter can be conditioned. You can condition your whole body, but one of the 2 most common ways that that people call out for a timeout in an MMA fight is a kick to the groin or an eye poke, which is all part of Krav Maga training as well. So that's what we're going to teach you, the kick to the groin. So move out a little bit further here. So from this position, Brian's going to hold the pad. The face of the pad is going to be downwards because the direction of my kick is upwards. He's going to bend a little bit at the waist to keep the pad away from him. From here, there's two motions to the kick. It's the swinging of my leg, and then I bend a little bit just to make the kick a little quick, almost like I'm trying to flick something off my foot, like if I had something stuck on my foot. I'm making contact anywhere from just below the shin, just below the kneecap, down to my instep of my foot, basically where your shoelaces are. So from here, I'm going to keep my hands up and I'm going to kick up, like so. Here. That's the kick to the groin. So again, a pad holder needs to make sure that they hold the pad away from themselves to make sure you don't actually land the kick, and hold it at hip height where the groin would actually be, right? And this is important when we start going over the self-defense and the self-defense series or the choke series that we're going to go over today. We're going to go over a couple of alternatives. All right, here we go. So we're going to start with a choke from the front. A very common attack. And from here, Brian's going to apply the choke onto my throat. From here, if you choke Brian, good, so you can hear my voice that he's actually choking me. From here, I'm going to block, strike, and then continue striking from there. So we have to break down the danger in the attack. Number one, what's the danger? I can't breathe, right? What's causing that? It's his thumbs pressing into my Adam's apple that's stopping the blood supply to my brain and the oxygen supply to my brain. So after a while, I'm going to pass out. If he keeps doing it, I'm going to die. So the first thing I want to do is make sure that I remove the thumbs. It's his thumbs that's causing that. So if he takes the thumbs off here and tries to choke me from here, can't do it, right? It's almost, Brian is strong, it's almost like a massage, right? So what I have to do from here is worry about his thumbs. I have to remove his thumbs, which is also the weakest part of the grip. So I don't want to apply strength versus strength. If I do that, you're never going to get choked by someone who's smaller and weaker than yourself. It's always going to be someone who's bigger and stronger. So from here, what I need to do is remove the thumbs. By not, again, strength versus strength, I'm going to create little hooks. So my thumb stays on the same side as my fingers. I create these little hooks. And I'm going to come into the meaty part of his thumbs. And I'm going to trace my clavicle bone outwards. Like so. So what I'm doing is basically, think of Superman ripping his shirt open to show his S sign. That's what I'm trying to do here. So from here, I come up. I don't want to come to his hands because, again, this is strength versus strength. I want to make sure I create momentum, and the motion, the direction of it, I don't go against his strength. I'm going with it. So it's almost like a rowing motion. So from here, I come up and I pluck upwards. You see how Brian's weight kind of falls forward a little bit. From here, we're going to move out a little bit so that you can see the legs. As soon as I remove the hands from my throat, from here I'm going to kick to the groin, right? You have one thing to your advantage in a self-defense situation, and that's the element of surprise. But obviously the element of surprise is not going to last for that long. So what I mean by that is, as soon as you get the hands off the throat, you need to change the mindset of the fight. Don't worry about what they can do to you. Obviously you have to be concerned about it, but you got to start thinking about what you can do to them. So that they can't focus on what they want to do to you, but rather focus on what you're doing to them. All right. Question from Susan here. Thank you, Susan. She asked if I should take my shirt off. I can't do that. It's a different class. Just kidding. All right. So from here, I'm going to rip his hands back here. Even if I don't get his hands all the way off, all I need to do is relieve the pressure a little bit. So then the kick to the groin is going to change everything. And then again, if you weren't in a fight a second ago, if you don't land it clean so that the person actually goes down from it, you've got to continue striking from here. So as soon as that leg comes back, I'm going to start punching. I can throw elbows, I can knee, I can headbutt, I can bite if I have to. There's a lot of different options, right? So that's a choke from the front. One more time, I'm going to run through the whole thing. From here, he chokes, choke a little stronger, Brian. Now you can hear he's choking me. A block, kick to the groin, strike from here. And then a lot of times a question that I get is, how long do you continue striking for? Well, it depends on the situation. Maybe one groin kick is enough for you to be able to get through that door and get out of the situation. The only thing that we're concerned about when it comes to Krav Maga and self-defense is go home safe. That's all that matters. Anything and everything else is redundant. However, if I'm in a room, locked in a room, for example, I might have to continue fighting to the point where he is no longer a threat, which might be him being rendered unconscious, basically fighting for your life, right? This is not for sports fighting, so you have to bear that in mind. There's not going to be a referee coming in to stop you. Cool. So that was the choke from the front. If you have a question about the choke from the front, please ask. You can write a question on here right now, and we're going to move on to a choke from the side. So, on a choke from the side, from this position, he puts both hands around my throat. Now, the only thing I have to worry about on this choke is this hand, the front hand. Why? Because if it takes this hand off, and it just chokes with the other one, he can squeeze, it might be uncomfortable, but it's not going to do any damage. This hand is what's cutting the blood supply. So this is the only hand I have to worry about initially. So again, the levels of threat. Initially, the threat is, again, his thumb. It's always the thumb that's causing the choke. So from here, I'm going to come up, not to his thumb, way past it. Almost like I'm reaching for a seatbelt. If he's closed, there's a chance you'll scratch him in the eyes. That's a bonus. From here, I'm going to come up, and again, the direction of a seatbelt, I'm going to pluck across by the meaty part of the thumb. As soon as I get the thumb off, I'm going to strike to the groin again. Even if I miss, what do you think a human's, especially a man's, reaction is going to be? Down, elbow upwards. And this, in Krav Maga, we have actually 9 elbows. Usually people teach 7 elbows, but we have 9 in total. This is in between a 2 and a 4. It's kind of to the side, this way. Now, again, levels of threats. Level 1 is his hands or his thumb choking me. Level 2, once I remove that thumb, I have to worry about him. Anytime he's to the side of me, he has an advantage. Right? If you watch boxing, wrestling, MMA, you're always trying to create angles. So I want to face him. So as soon as I get rid of that initial thumb of the initial threat, which is the thumb and the hand around my throat, I strike to the groin. Now I have to face him. I can turn with a strike, and I can continue striking from here until, again, the threat's been eliminated to me. So we move out a little bit further here from this position. Choke comes on. I go way past. I pluck across. Again, I want to create momentum on the way down. That's why I go way past. So I have speed as I come down. Pluck in the direction of a seatbelt, almost to my opposite pocket here. Hi, John. Chatal, how do you get out if we are attacked with a rope around the neck? That's a very good question, Chatal. I hope I pronounced your name right. It's a good question, and that's high-level Krav Maga. I'll be happy to show that later on, but we just got to show the basics first. There's a lot of options, right? Different ways that people can attack you, and we're going to go over those over time. So, Joey had a question. Joey asked if this works if the person is bigger, and the reason why it works even if the person is bigger than you is because, again, it's not my strength versus his or her strength. It works because I'm using my speed and technique versus the weakest part of his grip. Krav Maga was invented for, again, the Israeli military, and at the time, anyone and everyone were called in to join the military. Men, women, of all sizes, of all ages, older people of the population as well. So they needed a system that worked for anyone and everyone. Obviously, if someone has the equal technique, then it's going to be hard. But when it comes, this is not a good way of attacking a human that knows how to fight. This is a good way of attacking someone that doesn't know how to get out of, or doesn't know how to attack someone. But obviously, it's dangerous, but it's easy to get out of. Andreas, oh, I thought you had a question. Did not, I just shared it. Thank you guys for sharing this, by the way, I really appreciate it. So, again, a little bit further out here, choke comes on, I come up, pluck, strike to the groin. Again, I want to face him. I want to be in a fight stance where I can face him and continue striking from here. The last one we're going to go over today is a choke from behind. So, obviously, it's a dangerous position to be in. Another common type of an attack in the streets. Let's see, Joe had another question. What type style is the deadliest? That type style is the deadliest. To be honest, I get that a lot, and it's a good question, Joe. Joey asked if Krav Maga is the deadliest. Yes and no. in the end of the day, if someone is really talented, if you're a talented kickboxer, if you're a talented Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, if you're a talented karate master, you can potentially kill someone with that. The difference, I would say, is that Krav Maga wasn't meant as a martial art for competition. Krav Maga was taught originally to the military. Obviously, the military has one option or one purpose, and that's to kill the enemy. And a lot of times I get questions regarding Krav Maga. Oh, but this is different from the Krav Maga that I've seen in Israel, or this is different from this type of Krav Maga, or that type of Krav Maga. Here's the truth. There's 3 levels of Krav Maga. You've got civilian, you've got law enforcement, and you've got military. For all 3, there's a lot of overlapping knowledge, right? But then you have to look at the purpose. As a civilian, your job is to get out of the attack. It's for self-defense purposes, and that's what we're going to cover mostly. We're going to go over some stuff later on, high-level stuff, but we got to look at it from a civilian standpoint. When I work with law enforcement, a law enforcement officer's job is to subdue a potential threat and arrest the person. Now, sometimes obviously a police officer has to go to higher force as well, but the ultimate goal is to keep the population safe, and do so by any means necessary. A soldier's job, a soldier in battle's job is to kill and eliminate the threat to the country. And that's done. The military is called in when there's a threat to the country, right? So a soldier's main job is to kill the enemy. So that's why Krav Maga a lot of times is considered the most deadly. So yes and no. You know, you can obviously become very deadly without training Krav Maga as well. All right, I don't know if there's, there we go. So, the last one, we're gonna go over a choke from behind. I'm gonna demonstrate the live first. Here's a choke from behind, it's choking me. Again, you can hear, choke a little bit stronger. Now you can hear my voice that is actually choking me. From here, I'm gonna block, strike, continue striking, turn into him, and finish the fight from there. Again, in this situation, I'm not expecting the attack because it's coming up from behind, right? This is a situation, a surprise attack basically. So what I'm going to do from here is again, dealing with the thumbs. A lot of times people think it's the fingers that's causing the choke and it's choking me from behind, but that's not the case. It's actually still his thumbs. If he takes the thumbs off again and tries to choke, can't do it. He needs the thumbs as a point of leverage. So what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to bring my chin down, and the reason why I bring my chin down is to make it a little bit harder for him. A lot of times the common mistake is that people do this. They open up and all I do is open the windpipes for him to choke me even harder. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to bring my chin down, and from here, if you move out a little bit further so they can see my feet, from this position, I'm going to step in a 45-degree angle to the side and backwards, like so. So by turning towards you guys, I'm going to show you why. For 2 reasons. Reason number 1, I'm stepping so that I can later on expose the groin. 2, if he's really strong like Joe asked before, I might not be able to bring my upper body forward. So I have to compensate by bringing a leg slightly back so my upper body can travel downwards. By doing so, he also exposes his thumbs. Again, I'm not just going to his thumbs, I'm going way up and above so I can create momentum on the way down and rip his hands off. Once again, I'm grabbing by the meaty part of the thumb with the hooks that we spoke about in the beginning. From here, I'm going to strike to the groin, elbow upwards. Same thing here, right? I strike to the groin, what's his reaction? Forward, even if I miss it. And then I'm going to throw an elbow upwards back like so. Now, I've dealt with the initial danger. Danger number 2 is him. He's behind me still. This is not a good place for me to be, so I'm going to turn and face him. As I turn, I can turn with a hammer fist, I can turn with an elbow, but ultimately I'm going to turn and strike. So I'm going to take my foot that's closest to him, between his legs here, basically, lift it and turn, so I face him. And I'm going to strike from here. And then again, like before, I will continue striking until the threat's been eliminated to me. So again, from here, in steps, step out, bring your chin down, and block by the meaty part of the thumbs. From here, strike to the groin, elbow up. Strike, elbow. From here, I'm going to lift my foot. And the reason why I lift the foot is to make sure I don't trip on his legs. Turn and strike from here, like so. Now, another common question that I get is, should I throw a right straight or a left hook, or should I throw a knee, or should I throw a kick? Honestly, it depends on my opponent, right? So it might be that from here, when I do this part, and I throw the elbow, and it lands, it doesn't knock him out, but he might stumble back a couple of steps. Now I will turn and fight from this position, right? It might be that he's really, really close to me. And from this position, when I pluck, when you pluck, there's a good chance you'll scratch the eyes. Again, that's another bonus. From here, I might not be able to step back. I might have to step out in order to continue striking from there. So it always depends on the situation. We're never gonna tell you X, Y, and Z is what you have to do when it comes to the combatives. The initial self-defense move, we will teach you. But once you've done that initial movement, I can never teach you how a person's gonna react. So it all depends on your opponent after that. That's why it's so important to have a bunch of tools in your toolbox, and you apply them depending on the situation as necessary. All right, we have another question from Shitao. Have one more question. If I'm attacked by two people with a stick in their hand, and I had nothing in my hand and nobody around me to help, please tell me some tackles to protect myself. Shitao, again, these are horrific scenarios that you talk about, yet realistic. It does happen, right? So obviously we're gonna progress in the Krav Maga training. We're gonna do this training on Thursdays at 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So whatever time it is over there now, we start on Pacific Time, United States, 12 o'clock. We go over different scenarios in there. When it comes to a stick or multiple attackers in general makes it very, very difficult, right? Because it doesn't usually happen the way it happened in Bruce Lee movies, for example, where you have a circle around you and one person comes and you beat that person up, and then the next person comes. No, it's havoc, right? People come as a group. Can you tell them to turn down the music a little bit? To attack you. So the most important thing when it comes to multiple attackers is to stack two attackers, or if it's more than two, it's very, very difficult to deal with. So if Brian is here and he has a friend with him, I don't want to be between them. I don't want to have one attacker on each side, because I want to be able to see them. So I want to stack them, which means I'm going to try to circle as much as possible so I can have them within visibility at all times. When it comes to sticks, and you said tackle them, I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu myself, and it's a big part of mixed martial arts, obviously, and I compete in Jiu-Jitsu. I love doing it. But ending up on the ground when it's more than one person, and especially if they have sticks, now you're not very mobile when you're on the ground. Even if you tackle one person, you have the second person to deal with, and if the other person is below you, they can still hit you in the head with a stick. So you want to keep on your feet, and you want to be able to again stack them, deal with one attacker at a time, because you're not going to be able to take on two at the same time, and then there's stick takeaways. Now you have a weapon yourself, and you're able to fight back with it. Obviously, the best thing is A, don't be in the situation in the first place, but we can't always help that. B, if you have an opportunity to run, get out of that situation if you're in an open area, in a public place. And three, again, if you have no other options, you have to fight back. Stack your attackers, get to the weapon, do a stick takeaway, and then you're going to have to deal with the second attacker if there's more attackers on top of that. All right, a couple of more questions here. All right. Oh, Morokoi and Anthony and everyone else, thank you so much for sharing this video. Again, we're going to go over the attacks live from the front, from the side, from behind, and then we're going to take a few more questions regarding what we've gone through today and what you guys want to see in the future. Again, I can't always jump from, from what we're doing today, the very basics of self-defense, to machine gun takeaway, for example, because we're going to build there, right? And the truth is, in order to get from any level to a high level, there's only one way of getting there, and that's putting in time. You got to practice it, you got to work it. These are things, all you need is a partner, a training partner. You can go back and forth with this. So again, choke from the front, hands come on, I'm going to pluck, strike, continue striking from there. Choke from the side, pluck the front hand, strike to the groin, elbow, and continue from here. And then the third attack, choke from behind, block, strike, strike, turn into attacking and continue striking from there. All three cases you might see some similarities, and that is what Krav Maga is supposed to be. It's not flashy, it's not the highest spinning kicks, it's about effectiveness based on your instinctive response. And naturally when someone puts the hands around your throat, you want to bring your hands up to their hands. So you're either going to pluck from behind, from the side, from the front, right? And then you have to continue striking. As you might have noticed, we deal with the thumbs, the meaty part of the thumb, and then we continue striking from there to the groin. The initial strike to the groin. Even if you don't land it, at least you get them concerned about it. If you land it, that might be the end of the fight right there. Good. But we're always gonna prepare for the worst case scenario. So after I kick to the groin, I'm gonna continue striking from there with the combatives that I know. We're gonna go over combatives as well. Punches, kicks, knees and elbows, headbutts. If you have a pen in your pocket, you can take it out and use it as a sharp object to stab someone, right? So you have a lot of alternatives. Let's see if you have any more questions here before we move on. No more questions for right now. So again, my name is Kowal. We're here at Systems Training Center in Hawthorne, where we actually have 3 locations, one in Hawthorne, one in Westwood, one in Encino. And we're doing this training with martial tribes. I'm very grateful to martial tribes because they have helped spread the awareness of the social media campaign that we've done, which is 100 kicks a day. Martial tribes are good friends of us, and I'm happy and proud to be able to be part of what they do and the team and put together this series of Krav Maga training for you. We also have an online training base for Krav Maga called YourKravMaga.com. So if you go to YourKravMaga, Y-O-U-R, KravMaga.com, you can learn some more Krav Maga on there as well, and it's a little bit more broken down. But again, what we went over today is a choke from the front, choke from the side, choke from behind, very common attacks in the streets, and then dealing with those attacks, and then from that motion, from the initial attack, once you're out of the initial danger, how to strike back. One more time when it comes to the quick to the groin, we're going to show that real quick as well. I want to again make impact with the instep of my foot, so anywhere from just where my shoelaces are, let's see if we can go back a little bit, right here, to just under my knee. So anywhere with my shin bone basically, just like a Thai boxer kicks with the shin bone. From here, if you have a pad holder, make sure that you hold the pad strong so that you don't kick through, right? But in my mind, I'm aiming not just to the pad, I'm kicking through the pad. I'm taking certain body parts of my opponent and putting them in their throat, right? That's the goal. Hope you get that visual. So from here, again, when I'm kicking the pad, I point my toes so I can kick with the instep with the shin bone. My hands stay up. My power is from the hips. So it's not just my legs traveling up. I'm not a big person. I'm 5'7", 150 pounds. But I'm taking that 150 pounds and putting it into every strike. So from here, the leg that's kicking, I'm driving it up, not just to the target. If the pad wasn't there, my goal is to do this basically. I'm kicking through him, right? So from here, my hands are up, always in a fight stance. And from here, I'm going to kick through the target, pointing my toes. So from here, the kick's going to come up, like so. One more time, up, like so. All right, so I'm going to stay on here for a couple more minutes and see if there's any more questions. If not, I thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sharing this. Thank you for spreading self-defense. And again, we'll be here every Thursday at 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time and go over it. If you have any questions, you can post them on here. If you have any requests of moves you want to learn for next week or in the future, please post them on here as well. I want to thank Brian for coming in. Again, Brian is one of our amateur fighters here at Systems Training Center, talented fighter himself. And I want to use someone who's strong and knows how to fight in order to be able to show you that this is something that anyone can learn. And that's what Krav Maga is all about. It's for anyone and everyone, even if you have zero intentions of ever fighting, to know how to defend yourself, to know how to protect yourself. It's a nice feeling, and it's something that I wish everyone knew. So, all right, let's see if we have any other questions. Doesn't look like it. Again, even if you don't watch this live, you can still post your requests on here over the next, I guess until next week when we're doing this again, and we'll work it in. Even if it's not something that we can work next week, we can work it into the future. Again, today we went over choke from the front, choke from the side, choke from behind, and how to deal with those type of attacks and what to do from there. Remember, big part of Krav Maga is not just the technique in itself, it's also the mindset, right? You have to fight back. In a situation, this is not just when someone is name calling you. Obviously, we're talking about life and death type situation, and the mindset is important because, as a lot of people know about fight or flight, you know, we all have it in us. It's part of our DNA. All animals have it. If you try to grab a little rabbit, a little cute rabbit, for example, it's going to try to run away. If you corner that rabbit and you try to grab it, if it feels that it's threatened, it's going to fight back with any means necessary, any means possible. Biting and scratching. Same thing with us. We live in a somewhat civilized society where we don't usually have to worry about it, but things happen. We see it on the news all the time, and to live with the mindset that this is not going to happen to me, it's not good. Just looking at Los Angeles, women, for example, 1 in 4 women will at some point be attacked. So in my opinion, I wish everyone had the opportunity to learn self-defense, and now you do, right? You can come on here and you have a lot of options to learn how to defend yourself. And even if you feel like you're fine, you know how to do it, whether it's a loved one, a wife, a husband, a boyfriend, girlfriend, son or daughter, in my opinion, is something that everyone should know. All right. Ben, how are you? Benjamin, one of our Krav Maga instructors, is on here watching us. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed today. If you did, please like it and share it. Again, we're thankful for everyone that tuned in, and looking forward to seeing you next week, Thursday, 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Brian, thank you very much. Thank you, guys. See you soon.